you must see the frustration. I mean, what do you make of this team? Because we've heard some fans say, well, it's got to be coaching, but a lot of the mistakes we're seeing, it doesn't look like coaching. It's missed free throws, it's turnovers, it's not boxing out, it's leaving your guy open for three. What do you make of this team? And I guess are you sensing some frustration out of Adrian Autry?
Well, I thought it was pretty positive in the post-game conference. I mean, he said it was a good win, one of their better games this season. He said, of course, there's different things that they wanted to that he got frustrated with. I guess missed defensive assignments that he said that they went over in film. So he was frustrated that they gave up. I think he said 6 points at the end that he specifically they threw out, and there are different, but there are positives as well. That he also pointed out. The bigs played well. Always glad to hear that. Eddie Lampkin played well. He talked about his back. He said his back looks good. He needs him to play that way. Donnie played well. I still think they should, continue to go inside out. He mentioned the three-pointers. Of course, he would want to make more. I mean, I think that there's enough to draw from this last game to have at least a positive outlook for a little while. You know what I mean? For the past few games, it's been doom and gloom, and for valid reasons. But I think that there's enough to be able to say, okay, they played well. Let's try to build on what we did.
When you watch the bigs like Lampkin and Freeman, what can you do? A couple times last game and all season long, they've dribbled into double teams. How do you feel that coming, and what can they do to prevent that from happening where they're turning the ball over when someone drops on them?
So that's one of the things that Coach Autry did mention. He said he talked about the turnovers between the two of them. I think he said that there were 9 between the two of them. So that's definitely a point of emphasis that they're going to have to improve on. But I think that they are doing a good job of scoring when they get the ball inside, making something happen. Sometimes it is crowded in there. Sometimes it's hard to pass big to big. Sometimes you maybe have to be able to understand that when a team is not shooting well, there are going to be people who are going to crowd the middle. That's just common sense basketball. They don't have to go out into the three-point shooters to contest them as hard when the big man has the ball. Because of the number of three-point shooters three-point shots that are missing right now. So that is one factor. But I would want them to keep being aggressive. I mean, if something's working, keep going it. I think they should give the ball more. I know a lot of I saw a lot of the criticism of Donnie Freeman and his having his teammates back. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
That's what I thought. I didn't have any problem with it at all. You know what I mean? You're supposed to have your teammates back. But yeah, you to try to contain and use a lot of words like that, but you want him to be aggressive. You want him to be spirited, and you want him to, bring that aggression out of him. So I personally don't see any problem with it. I mean, of course, you don't want anybody to get kicked out the game, or you know what I mean. Yeah. But for me personally, I thought it was just fine.
Steve and I kind of disagreed on that because I said the same thing you did. It showed me that even with the struggles this team has, it shows that they still like each other and they got each other's back,
well,
right?
Just let me jump in for 1 second. The thing that I didn't like was that he squared up. Because to your point about you can't get ejected, right? And even if he made, if he didn't even throw a punch, but, he squares up, and even if he, started to throw a punch, he's probably out of the game. And so that was the part that was like, listen, you got to know that you're important to your team. You got to be out there. But I didn't mind that he stood up for him, maybe go over and talk a little smack or a little pushing and shoving, but the fact that he squared up he was going to knock him out, I thought that was a little bit too much. But anyway.
Well, you could interpret it like that, or you're squaring up to protect yourself. So if you're going to put your face in front of somebody,
all right, that's fair.
You hit first. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Okay.
I hear the optics of it, and I understand it. But if you're with somebody and y'all having words and you come over, you don't really want to put your face first. That's not really a good strategy.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I guess going back to what Paulie asked you though, just about the the message I guess that it sends, that even though they're 6-6 and things haven't gone the way that anybody wants them to go, the fact that they have each other's back, is that the kind of moment I guess, Etan, that can bring a team closer together with ACC play about to start back up here?
Oh, 100%. It has to be, them against the world mentality. They have to be able to say to each other, look, the whole world is against us. You know what I mean? Social media is against us. All the media are not, they don't have the confidence in us anymore. They have to have that mentality that they have to pull together. And that's the only way they're going to come out of it. So like I said, I looked at it as very much a positive that they had each other's back. And they played well. You got to be able to look at the positives of something. Even though I know we're not having the overall season that we want. We're not having the record that we want. But you got to look at the positives sometimes. I mean, you had 2 double-doubles from your bigs. How do you say his name?
Majstorovic.
Majstorovic. I'm gonna have to get that right. But he came off the bench playing good. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was rebounding. He was mixing up in there. He was, scoring inside. It's and I always Jair Davis didn't do as much productivity, but I like how he's been playing for the past few games. So I really think that really capitalizing on what is working, I think is a good strategy. But then, like we said before, we have to knock down some shots, because teams are just going to start packing it inside, and more and more and more. They'll, get to the point where they'll give up the open shot, the open three, to come and double team Eddie Lampkin or clog up the middle, when Donnie Freeman has the ball. And that's not what you want either.
Talking about the positives, I think you're right. I thought the guys who came in off the bench, Cuff, Taylor, Majstorovic, Davis, all did some really good things, provided some energy. So that was a positive. I thought another one of the positives was the press that they threw at them, that they, they sped them up a little bit. We talked about all the turnovers SU had. They forced 17 turnovers of Bucknell, had 20 points off turnovers. Do you think that was just a case of the opponent? They felt like they could, speed up Bucknell and turn them over? Or do you think we might see some of that once ACC play starts back up?
I think it'll be according to the personnel. I mean, there's certain players that you really wouldn't want to press up on as much. Sure. But there's other teams where, you see them at a vulnerable spot and then you throw a press at them. I think that's just good coaching strategy. I think we'll definitely see it again at some point during the season. I don't know if you'll, see it consistently every single game, but I do think you'll see it.
I mentioned the bench play a ton, and I guess Cuff and Taylor in particular, we've seen their minutes steadily increase. I mean, Cuff played 24 minutes against Bucknell. Taylor played 24 as well. And on the flip side of that, Chris Bell and Elijah Moore both got 16 minutes. What is it that you're seeing out of those guys? I mean, Taylor's making some shots, but it's got to be more than that, right? I mean, what have Kyle Cuff and Lucas Taylor done that, in your mind, that have earned them those extra minutes?
Well, they're playing with confidence, and they're not, looking, at least from the outside looking in, that they're afraid to make mistakes. They're going out there. You see the communication happening with Coach Red. You see them, I guess executing what he's saying that he wants them to execute, and then they're getting rewarded with more minutes. I mean, I think that, one of the things that Coach Autry said is that he's still searching for a group. He's searching for, he's putting everybody on notice. I'm searching for who's going to step up, who's going to play consistently, who's going to do the things that I ask them to do, that I require of them to do. So he keeps saying it. So, it just depends on who steps up and who doesn't. And you'll see, whoever steps up, as their minutes will start to increase more and more.
While we're talking about Kyle Cuff, I wanted to get your thoughts on this quote from Adrian Autry about Kyle Cuff.
But what I talked about, and I can't take all the credit, it started from Kyle Cuff after the Maryland game. He texted me and he said, Coach, this season is, basketball season made up into 3 seasons. Non-conference, regular season, conference, and then postseason. And I thought that was pretty impactful. And I thought about it, and so that's kind of what the message, and then I gave Kyle his credit on that.
How does a player do that? How do you put the non-conference behind you when you're moving forward?
Well, you kind of have to. They like Coach said, they had a tough non-conference schedule, and the non-conference didn't go as well as they wanted it to go. But now you're moving into a different phase, so you kind of have to put that behind you. And that doesn't mean that it's going to get any easier, but it's just a different phase. I think that's definitely a very true statement. And then now they have to just battle forward. That's what they have to do. It's a tough battle. I know people are saying that the ACC is not what it was before, and I see those comments and everything like that. But the ACC ball that I've been watching looks pretty good to me. It looks competitive. It looks that, any team can get beat on every given night. You have to come with it. It looks pretty competitive. So, they have to just bring it going forward.
Etan, I've got one more question just about all the guys that we've been seeing play. We saw 10 guys play against Bucknell. Naheem McLeod got a couple of minutes. We know JJ is coming back here at some point. Do you think Adrian Autry will continue to play 9 or 10 guys, or do you think that eventually he's going to find the 7 or 8 that he feels most confident in, and then those guys get all the minutes?
I'm not sure, and it's going to be interesting to see. I look at some of the comment sections and seeing the different chatter from Syracuse fans, and that's one thing that's a little bit different now is the conversation. I don't want to sound like the old guy, things are not the way they used to be, but they're not. The conversation is different. So a lot of times people say, well, this player is making X amount of money, from the NIL, and so they should be doing X, Y, and Z, and it's. I see those comments a lot, this player only got this many points and rebounds and for this amount of money. And that's just a conversation that wasn't there before. And so when that type of a discussion is entered into the conversation, I don't know what effect that has. I'm saying I do not know. I don't like seeing that discussion, because things are different. I was just looking at on the flip side, another situation at another school where players were suing their former coach, Leonard Hamilton, and because what was promised to them NIL wise, they didn't receive. That's a whole new landscape.
Yeah.
This is not a conversation that so it's everything is so different right now, and then that goes to now. Players have to have representation when they come to the table. You have 17, 18-year-old, kids that all have to have the proper representation and negotiation to make sure that everything is put into the contract form of what they're going to receive and what they're not going to receive and what is expected. It's just a whole different landscape. So when you talk about playing time, I don't know what all factors into that now. You know what I mean? Because in a lot of people's minds that, that the NIL number does affect how much a person is supposed to produce or supposed to play or, many shot attempts that they're supposed to have. So those conversations become a lot, more complicated now. That's a long way of answering your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is complicated. It's like, we asked you a week or two ago about Donnie Freeman getting benched for a good portion of the second half because, he wasn't playing well, wasn't doing what Red said. Those types of things, as a coach, you wonder if they have repercussions about, whether or not he might hit the portal in the offseason if I coach him too hard. Those things never used to factor in, right? I mean, it was, you did what you thought was best to win that game or for the development of the player. Now you got to worry about the trickle-down effect of, what's going to happen in a couple of months when the season's over.
But one of the things that Coach Red has done is saying that he's, trying to do his best to find the players who are producing the most. Not what everybody thinks, not who they think that should, not according to, he hasn't mentioned according to NIL amount, but they're all the factors that go into it. But he's trying to see who is going to produce and do the things that he wants them to do and follow the directions and instructions that he has for them. And those are the people who are going to play. So I think he's done a pretty good job of just, kind of setting the mark of how he is going to run things.
Yeah.
And so we'll just see how everything goes.
Yep. And another game tomorrow, 2:00 tip between Syracuse and Wake Forest as they jump back into ACC play. Etan, as always, we appreciate the time. Happy New Year, and we look forward to talking with you again next week.